thinking about it.
It's thinking about it. If we're online yet, I apologize. There we go. Hi.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? I'm Kenneth Hardcastle.
I'm Anna Karras.
And we're here to talk about, we're at the virtual book club, Collier County Public Library Virtual Book Club, here to talk about The Vanishing Act of Esme Lennox by Maggie O'Farrell. So, let's talk about that.
Great.
So, Iris runs a vintage clothing shop, and her life is fraught with complicated relationships. She's close with her stepbrother, Alex, but she hates his wife. She's dating. Let's say dating Luke.
Dating.
But he's married.
Seeing.
And he's more than a little dramatic about it. So when she gets a letter concerning one Euphemia Lennox, it doesn't really mean anything to her. But after a few persistent calls, she learns the baffling truth. Euphemia, or Esme, as she prefers, is the great aunt that she never knew she had, and she's been in Caldstone Mental Hospital for 61 years, and they need to know if Iris can take her in. Iris's grandmother, Kitty, now in a home with Alzheimer's, certainly never said anything about having a sister. So that's the setup that starts this rather fascinating novel. It's a short but challenging read with no chapter divisions, told from three perspectives. One is Iris's life in the present. This next is Esme's perception of now, filtered through her memories of 60 years ago. And the third is Kitty's relentless snippets of random recollection. And together they all three hurtle towards long-buried family secrets. So what did you think of the book?
Well, it's really interesting that you said that there were no chapter divisions, because I actually listened to the audiobook and I had no idea that it was like that. So
Right.
That was really interesting. I did notice that one section kind of just flowed into the next, so I just never really thought about it, I guess. But yeah, no chapter divisions. I just want to be off camera.
Keeps going. There's nowhere to stop, really, which really makes you keep reading.
A trick by the author to make sure you don't put the book down. No, I'm kidding.
The overall effect is jarring, but fascinating. Definite stay up late to finish kind of book.
Yeah, I really thought so too.
Which I definitely did.
Cool. I liked it. I thought it was, it wasn't a happy story, but it was an engrossing story.
Very much so.
Oh yes, absolutely.
I really enjoyed the way that she organically constructed her characters, that the author organically constructed her characters in a way that was very consistent with their carefully revealed backstories.
Mm-hmm.
And how, more than anything, it was memory that drove the story.
Right.
Perceptions of, what people saw, what people thought, that really really brought out the conclusion.
Mm-hmm. The thing I love about stories like this is when the author will give you a clue that, like, the narrator doesn't have yet.
Right.
And so it's like, you've figured out something that the protagonist doesn't know yet, and you're like, oh, I know something that you don't know. I love that. I absolutely adore that. So, do you want to talk about some of the questions, or do you have any other stuff that you want to talk about? Or
we've got these questions first, I suppose.
These are the ones that I posted last week on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So, so some of the earliest scenes Esme shares with the reader are those from her childhood in India. What do they reveal about Esme, her family, and their place and time in society? Well, let's take that one. What do they reveal about Esme, first of all?
So she lived in India, and that was well clue to me that they were British. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess that was possibly obvious, but
And it was
the author
World
is,
War II.
The author is Scottish. It's set primarily in Edinburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that was my first clue. Like, oh, they're living in India, so they're probably British, or British adjacent. And it was a long time ago.
They don't really give you any specific dates in this book, but the only clue that we have is that Britain didn't lose control of India until after World War II.
Right.
So they come back to Scotland before that happens. So that leads me to believe that this was somewhere between World War I and World War II.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty clearly that, since Iris is living fairly modern.
Yes, fairly modern.
Yeah. I would assume that it took place around 2008 when the book was published.
Oh, okay. That's probably a fair guess.
But maybe not. There were cell phones, at least.
Yes. So what does this reveal about her family?
So going along with that, it's kind of that they're prim and proper. We saw a lot of that. And we saw some of their... we saw a very formative moment in their life when they lost a child, Hugo, their little
baby,
brother,
yes.
who was a baby. And I'm not entirely sure what happened, honestly. It's kind of told by impressions and vague memories.
It was probably something like cholera or something that was very prevalent.
An illness, fever, or something like that, where the child and I guess a nanny, a servant of some kind, both died, and only Esme was there.
Well, the rest of the servants took off.
Right.
Right, because they didn't want to get sick. And Esme was left basically holding her dead brother for 3 days.
Right. So that's something.
Yeah, that's enough to mess a person up. So, I mean, Esme has, definitely had, cause to have post-traumatic stress disorder. Even before she goes back to Scotland.
Right.
So there's that. And, the second question is, Alex and Luke are both married men in love with Iris. And do you really think Iris loves either one of them? Why or why not?
So, we're going to be talking about spoilers.
Oh, yeah.
Some spoilers, by the way. We're not going to go all the way to the end, probably.
Oh, I don't think.
But we might.
I think we will.
We will? Okay.
Oh, yeah, because we're going to talk about whether Esme is crazy or not.
Okay.
We have to talk
Fair
about
enough.
the ending for that. So.
Spoiler alert then.
Spoiler alert.
Stop. If you haven't finished the book, you probably want to before you continue seeing this video. But the video will be right here on Facebook. You can come back and find it on the Collier County Public Library page. Okay, so Alex and Luke are both married men in love with Iris. Do you really think Iris loves either one of them?
Well, I know she doesn't love Luke.
No, she doesn't love Luke.
Luke is just a
fascination.
Yeah. A distraction.
Something to do.
Yeah.
Alex. That's a more difficult question.
They certainly have a history.
She loves her stepbrother in a familial way, at least.
Yes. Yes.
So they have a history. They had a more romantic relationship when they were
in college?
in their teens, or starting mid to late teens.
Yeah.
Possibly continuing into college. And that broke off after her grandmother saw her.
We haven't mentioned that Alex and Iris are stepbrother and stepsister.
Right.
Not blood related, but their parents were at one time married to each other. Her mother and his father. Yes. Yes. So that puts a little bit of a stain on their relationship, I think. But it's, certainly not, reprehensible or morally wrong or anything. I think that Iris does love him. I think she's just scared of what that means.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because, she wouldn't be messing around with unmarried men if she wasn't scared to commit.
Right.
Right. Yes.
Question 3.
Yeah.
As the story of Esme and Kitty unfolds simultaneously with the story of Iris and Alex, O'Farrell offers clues about the true nature of these relationships. How do these two stories relate to each other? And how does it affect your feelings about the characters?
You know, I never really thought about how they related to each other as I was reading the book.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a story of sibling relationships, now that I think about it.
Yes. So it's the story of Esme and Kitty, and
Right.
the story of Alex and Iris.
Right.
And then some peripheral characters in there
Exactly.
sometimes.
How did they relate to each other? I don't know that.
So the author stated...
Oh.
I'm trying to find the spot.
Okay.
I didn't highlight this one. But the author stated pretty clearly that she thought that Iris and Esme were both very similar people. And
Okay.
their lives have very similar trajectories. Just the difference is that Iris grew up in a world where you don't automatically institutionalize a woman who doesn't conform to, whatever societal norms state they should be. There it is. One of the points of the novel for me is that Iris and Esme are essentially the same person, and it's just the luck of the draw that Iris was born in a time when that didn't happen to her. So that's what the author thinks. Does that kind of ring true to you, that Iris and Esme are the same person?
I don't think they're the same person. I think that they have a lot of similar characteristics.
Yeah.
I think that they're both very independent people. They're both very intelligent, like even emotionally intelligent, I would say, because the story of Esme in the mental hospital is one where, for the most part, she understands how to behave in order not to get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And she does that for the most part.
Her way of disassociating from the world and acting like she's not there. It's just kind of interesting in that respect.
It was the Vanishing Act.
The Vanishing Act.
Of
exactly.
Esme Lennox. Yes.
And, well, that and the fact that she was out of the world for 60
Right.
years.
True. Yes. Yes, that's true.
Altogether. Yeah. The name's very appropriate for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
How do these two stories relate to each other? So that's kind of how they relate to each other.
Okay.
How does it affect your feelings about the characters?
Iris, I liked her, but I had some issues with her because, well, I guess
Because she didn't conform to your societal norms?
I'm being a little judgy. I have to admit, I'm being a little judgy because, she was basically sleeping with a married man.
Mm.
And I don't think that's cool, but then again, I really don't have a foot to stand on because she's not me, and she can do whatever she wants, even though she's a fictional character.
Mm-hmm.
But that she did irritate me in that way. It's like I felt that if you want to be with somebody, then be with somebody. Don't be with somebody who's unattainable.
Right.
I saw it more of her shooting herself in the foot than maybe ruining a marriage.
Right. So Esme and Kitty were just an interesting dynamic to watch.
Yeah.
Throughout their lives, and then the snippets of Kitty's recollections that you get were. It was just fascinating to see the story unfold in the way that the author chose to tell it. And then Iris and Alex, that was a complicated relationship.
Of course it was.
Just that's kind of what there is to say about that. I liked Iris.
I did too.
A fair bit, although certainly there's some societal and ethical norms that she's choosing to shatter. But That's
However,
interesting.
she did redeem herself when she finally met the other woman. She met the wife of Luke, and she found out that she was pregnant, and that really threw her for a loop. She said she never would have done it if she had known that the wife was pregnant. And I'm like, yay! Go Iris!
Redemption.
Redemption, yes.
Okay, question 4.
Okay.
So, why do you think Esme was sent to Caldstone and never released to go home? Do you think she's mentally imbalanced? And give examples to support your opinion.
Okay, so here is the big spoilers, right? So she's sent to Coldstone because she was raped at a ball by a man that her sister was lusting after. And she pretty much, like any normal person, became completely unhinged after the fact and just started screaming in the middle of the ballroom, which, fair enough. I mean, yeah, I would too. And because of that,
And
she was...
that and her history of being a difficult child, basically. That, her parents were kind of like, why can't you be more like Kitty,
Right.
who's a perfect Victorian child.
Mm-hmm.
So that combined, that incident, which she never, I think she never revealed. She
Nope.
never told anybody
She never
about
told
it.
anybody about it.
That that was like the last straw, basically. Her father shipped her off to Caldstone for reformation purposes, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
And then
And it seemed to me in the book that her parents were willing to just leave her there.
right,
They were basically abandoning her because she was too much to deal with, and she wasn't being a proper person in their eyes. The only thing was that Kitty had decided that she was going to go visit her and possibly take her sister home. But that's when, spoiler alert number 2, they found out about the baby. Yes.
So Esme was pregnant, and Kitty thought that it was Esme taking advantage of the guy she liked, and also was having issues with her own pregnancy at the time.
Or lack thereof.
Or lack thereof.
Right.
So then it was just...
It was basically Kitty wanting the baby so much that left Esme in the mental hospital for 61 years until the hospital closed down and they had to find a place for Esme to go, which hence contacting Iris, her last known relative.
Did you? So obviously we covered the fact that Esme had some trauma, possibly from her brother's death,
And from the rape as well.
But
Was she crazy?
was she crazy?
I don't think so.
Nah,
Not at all.
Nothing more than diagnosis of maybe like ADHD or something.
Maybe, yeah.
She might have had something like that before all this began, but then, not anymore.
No, I mean she was she was acting perfectly normal in reaction to the circumstances.
Yep.
Full stop.
Yep.
And she would have been fine if somebody would have given her a chance, and nobody did.
Or if like normal therapy was a thing at that time.
Well, I don't think it was a big thing back then because I mean Freud was really just kind of getting started at the time.
Right.
So, yeah, but no, I don't think she was unbalanced at all. Like I said, she was very good at navigating the hospital system and finding ways not to get in trouble by becoming as invisible as possible, flying under the radar. I think, other than, the trauma that she suffered, there was absolutely nothing wrong with her.
Yeah. Question 5. Esme is both taken aback and fascinated by the many things that Iris shows and tells her. What does Esme find so remarkable about Iris, and how are they similar and different?
Well, what does Esme find so remarkable about Iris? Probably, I mean, she's been locked away for 61 years. So there are many, many advances in our society. Well, whether you think they're good or bad, I don't know. But I mean, technology certainly has advanced, and she was, just marveling at how the buildings were all still the same, but everything was so different.
Right.
I think she found Iris remarkable in that she was her own woman. She was allowed to have her hair cut like she wanted. She was allowed to dress like she wanted. She was allowed to live alone like she
Live in
wanted.
her own place, yeah.
And, and even take a lover if she wanted to. And that was something that was completely forbidden or shut off as a possibility for Esme when she was the same age. Let's see. How are Iris and Esme? Oh, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, no, you hit the points that I wanted
Okay.
to talk about. So,
All right.
what does Esme find so remarkable about Iris? How are they similar?
How are they similar? What do you think?
Well, yeah, we kind of covered this already. In that,
Yes,
they have similar personality traits.
Mhm.
A big independent streak,
Mm-hmm.
and if Iris lived in Esme's time, she might have found herself in a similar situation. Something else from the interview with Maggie O'Farrell that I read. There's a scene in the book in which Iris looks through the patient's admissions notes in the asylum record room, and the cases she reads about are all real.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh,
They're
wow.
real notes that Maggie O'Farrell must have researched.
That's frightening.
At every reading she's given, people came up to her and said, "This happened to my grandmother. This happened to my aunt. I met a woman last night who told me her great aunt had been put away at the age of 14 because she'd been raped by a priest and her family hadn't believed her, and she died there in her 70s."
Oh,
It's a
how
shocking, shameful chapter in our history, and it went on for a very long time. Even as recently as the 1950s, she says that a man could commit his wife or daughter to an asylum with just a signature from a GP.
Yeah.
So there's still possibly stories that could yet be revealed that are like this.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, and that's terrifying to think of. How are they different?
Well, aside from time frame, Iris kind of has probably more of a willingness to dive into situations like she has with Alex, like she has with Luke, where she's not really sure where it's going, and she's not really sure how to deal with things if it goes south. Whereas Esme hasn't really had the opportunity to even make those decisions.
Right.
Well, until the end, in which she's kind of fine with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. True. I don't know that Iris would have done what. Well, she may have. I might have done what Esme did at the end of the book.
Anybody would, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. I think that's fair. And what does she have to lose anyway?
One thing that I really liked was Iris treating Esme. So one thing that the author fleshed out kind of was. So Iris had been dealing with a grandmother who has Alzheimer's, and so when she brings Esme into her life, who's a woman about similar age, she who's kind of spent 60 years disassociating from life. She kind of so she asks Esme a question, and then she repeats it louder, or she describes something that Esme already knows, but she was just kind of processing in her head. So she's kind of treating Esme like she has Alzheimer's.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because she would have had that experience from dealing with her
Her own grandmother.
her
Well, what she thought was her grandmother.
So yeah, it's just little things like that that kind of fleshed out the characters given circumstances. And that was just another part of what made this book very fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that.
Any other thoughts, or any other thoughts about why Iris and Esme are similar or different?
I got nothing.
All right. So thanks for joining us, those of you who did.
Yes.
Let me go ahead and comment with my email address to tell you where to send. If you're interested, we're doing a Zoom call next week, same time, at noon. That's Friday, August 28th.
Mm-hmm.
And I will enter the email address to send for, if you want to be a part of that.
We can send you the link for the Zoom meeting.
Okay. So that's where to send that. And I hope you enjoyed the book.
Yes.
Let us know if you have any questions. Send any comments you like, and thanks for joining us.
And we will see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.